What's made you feel like voting isn't worth it?
For you to sit there and you see your elders say something to, the town hall or something like that, and nothing's being done about it, after a while, it just becomes a non-factor in your life. You just feel like, I'm gonna just do what I gotta do, survive on a day-to-day, make a way for my family and everything like that. Politics don't really matter.
Ahead of last Tuesday's primary in North Carolina, many young African Americans didn't seem to engage. That should be sending alarm bells ringing in the Democratic Party, which absolutely depends on the continuing support of black voters. But how strong of a hold does the Democratic Party actually have? And what happens if black voters stay home in November? Joining me to discuss is Cliff Albright, co-founder and executive director of the Black Voters Matter Fund, and Alicia Garza, principal of the Black to the Future Action Fund. Welcome to you both. So let's start with you, Cliff. Black Americans are among the most affected by inflation and other economic ills, but that's not the only issue that black voters care about. What are Democrats getting wrong in their messaging at this moment?
Well, good morning to you, Michael. It's always good to share space with my sister in the movement, Alicia. We care about the economy, clearly. We care about inflation, or what many of us more properly call corporate greed. We care about police violence, which was demonstrated all throughout 2020. It's interesting whenever people say, well, what do black voters care about? Well, you had a whole bunch of black voters and black community members, and particularly young folks, who demonstrated what exactly it is that we care about and are passionate about with historic summer protests. We want to see some type of police reform passed. We care about student debt. We care about health. Contrary to the belief of the senator from Louisiana, it actually matters. You can't just discount black women and black maternal mortality rates, right? That's actually a thing that we need to deal with. And the black community cares about all of these issues. We care about racial justice writ large, and we care about voting rights, because many of us recognize that it's through our voting rights that we're able to get movement on all of these other issues that we're very passionate about. And so there's a range of issues, and what's happening at the national level is going to continue to impact turnout. But in many of these races, Georgia's a good example, that it's also about what the options are that's being presented in each state. In some of these states, there's a very clear contrast between people that have been fighting for us and people that have been very much anti-black in their politics and in their personal lives.
Alicia, Cliff makes a very interesting and I think an important point, particularly when he's talking about discounting the black voter out there. And you never more have you seen that than in a state like Florida, where an appeals court reinstated Governor Ron DeSantis' redistricting map in Florida. What consequences will that map have on black voters in Florida ahead of these midterm elections?
Well, what it serves to do is it serves to weaken the black vote. It serves to disperse it, and it also serves to dilute the power of the black vote. This is the reason that they pass and move these redistricting maps, is because they want to concentrate black votes in a particular place and therefore make it almost impossible to impact politics at a state level and then, of course, at a national level. And these are the kinds of things that black voters do care about. What we see is that the rules are rigged against us. And what we don't see is politicians and elected officials standing up to move an agenda that includes all of us, especially black voters. When we talk about the issues that black voters care about, when we talk about what Democrats are getting wrong as it relates to messaging to black voters, I'm not sure it's a messaging question as much as it is an engagement question, as much as it is a winning question. Black voters want to see policy change in a positive way on the issues that we care about. We want to see a political party that depends on our votes to make progress, actually embed themselves in our communities, not just during election cycles, but in between. We want to make sure that we're not just dealing with symbolism, but black voters want to see substance on the issues that we care about. And until that happens, the Democratic Party is going to continue to see black voters sit back and sit home in a moment where Democrats actually very much need black voters to not just participate, but to lead.
But, it's an interesting dynamic that you mentioned there, Alicia, because you do have some candidates out there that are really, really striking and appealing. John Fetterman, for example, just won the Democratic Senate primary, U.S. Senate primary in Pennsylvania. But his previous actions may prevent some black Democratic voters from supporting him. In a New York Times opinion piece, Michael Sokolov writes, quote, Mr. Fetterman's most worrisome vulnerability is his appeal to his party's most dependable voting bloc, black voters in Philadelphia and the state's other urban centers, the places where any Democrat running statewide must mine the largest trove of votes. Why do you think that's a problem for him? What is it? What do you make of this? I know it refers back to, the episode that he had, holding a young African-American at bay with a gun. What's the storyline here? Does that tie into what Alicia was just referencing, or is that just such an outlier that it's not going to matter?
I don't know if that was for me, Michael. I think
for you.
That,
I'm sorry, Cliff, yeah.
It matters. Yes, it matters, right? And we got to be honest. Black voters are far more nuanced and sophisticated than a lot of people like to give us credit for. Like, there are people out there that think we just want to vote for a black face, and so they'll throw in somebody like a Herschel Walker, right? Or there's people out there that think that we're just going to vote blue no matter who, and that's clearly not the case. And so what Fetterman does, we're able to see, and it's not just Fetterman, it's other Democratic candidates. We're able to see the things that they do in the way that they signal. Like black voters in Pennsylvania and across the country notice when a candidate like a Fetterman campaigns in a certain way, where he only goes to certain parts of the state, where he's putting more emphasis on the swing voters or the quote unquote swing voters, because we always say the most important swing voter isn't the one that you're trying to convert from Republican to Democrat. It's the swing voter who you need to convert from not engaging to engaging. But we see when these candidates are taking a certain stance where they're trying to prioritize certain voters. We see that when he refuses to apologize for his actions, that means something to us. And so it's partially a messaging issue. It's partially a policy issue. It's partially just are you willing to fight for us issue. Black folks, we're very forgiving, and again, we're very understanding. We know that there are systemic obstacles out there. Probably nobody in this country understands systemic obstacles more than we do, right? But you can't use that as an excuse to not even fight for us. Like, we need to see you at least fight for us. And if you lose because because of these obstacles, we can deal with that, right? We might still hold you accountable, but we can at least understand that. But too often we're seeing folks not even willing to fight for us. Right. That's an issue.
Thank you, Cliff, for that. I really appreciate it. Cliff Albright and Alicia Garza, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Coming up after the break, co-host of the iGen Politics podcast, Victor Shi, joins me next with some valuable advice on how to get young people to the polls. Democrat and Republicans electeds, I hope you're listening. We'll be right back.